Welcome to Sheboygan County Government, working for you. My name is Adam Payne, County Administrator and co-host of this program with Chairman Tom Wagner. And every month we strive to bring a new department head to our meeting, someone who can tell you about the roles and responsibilities of their department, what's happening. And this month, Greg Schnell, our Transportation Director, is with us. Greg, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
How you been?
Excellent.
It's good to have you here. Why don't you begin by sharing a little bit about when you became Transportation Director, your history, a little background about yourself, working in transportation, and then we'll get into the dynamics of your department.
All right. I started in transportation 29 years ago. I started working for Manitowoc County when I was 18 years old. Ran equipment, plowed snow, worked everything from the asphalt plant, crushing operations. So I had a little background, just about everything a highway operation did. Because of my want to lead and expand, they recognize that, and I've taken on some superintendents and foreman roles throughout my years. And then when this position opened up back in October of 2006, and I was hired here, I was fortunate to be here, and I'm here for 12 years, and I enjoy every minute of it. We have a full soup to nuts operation where we can build our own roads, see progress happening. It's a great place to be and work.
Did he just say he enjoys every minute of it,
Yeah, I think
Tom?
he said that. Yes, he did.
Every now and then I hear a slight exaggeration, but Greg, you do such good work, but I know there are minutes in the day that aren't so enjoyable. You deal with a lot of challenges, whether it's your own staff in the winter, maybe hitting a mailbox or two and you getting the call, or road construction underway that isn't going as timely as you would hope. Without question, you have been a tremendous leader, and I'm so glad you're here, and I'm so proud of the work you continue to do. So outstanding background. You've got a lot of experience. You've worked your way up through the ranks. And recently, as you know, the county board supported building a new transportation complex. Set the stage for us a little bit. When did you have your open house, and why is this new transportation complex so important to your operations?
Okay, sure. We had an open house back in June June 15th, and it was well attended. There was about 750 people that came through. It was a great day. It was very hot, but everybody seemed to enjoy what they came to see. The facility is working out well for us. We had closed 3, built 1, so from the efficiency standpoint, I think we've gained a lot. As some of the key efficiencies that I see, we dispatch about 22 trucks per day out of that facility. As we all do, we have vehicles at home that from time to time will have a flat tire in the morning when you want to get started, or they don't start. Well, a few short years ago, we used to come and have to send somebody out of our facility down in Sheboygan to send them out to where the trucks were dispatched from, so we lost time. Now when we have those types of issues, they can take the truck, the repair truck, drive to the other side of the facility, pump up the tire, change the tire, start the truck, and now we've just gained ourselves a half hour or an hour or even more than that to get that truck back on the road. That's just one small example of the things that we are going to see. Just having this facility centrally located. We have 3 other facilities located throughout the county, one down in Cascade, one on the south side of Sheboygan, one on the north side of Sheboygan. This facility is centrally located, and they are no longer traveling all the way to the east part of the county in order to get their trucks fixed. So that's going to pay dividends well into the future.
And in addition to now having 4 facilities across the county, the new transportation complex is also pretty close to some other resources, including a gravel pit or 2, and you're sharing resources with Rocky Knoll Healthcare Center.
That's right. Just the gravel pit alone was an excellent resource in building the foundation for our new facility. There were some areas in that field, and it was an ag field to start with some locations that had some not so suitable soil to build on top, so we took that out. So there's areas where we brought in 15 feet of fill. We were running in maybe 200 to 300 loads of material a day to build that foundation to get that as level as it is today. So that saved us a considerable amount of money. We did it with our staff, we did it with our equipment. As you mentioned, Rocky Knoll is right up the road. Great resource for us. We didn't have to put in high capacity wells because we're taking water from their water tower, which has more capacity in it than what they will ever need. In fact, it's got more capacity than the village of Wallow. So it's when you look at it from a capacity standpoint, with us jumping on and using their water, that helps purify their water as well. More usage obviously gets that water to flow. We're also connected to their sewer that runs down State Highway 67 into the city of Plymouth, where it's treated. So we have a an agreement with the city as well as Rocky Knoll to treat our sewage, and we're getting charged through those areas with the city as well as through Rocky Knoll. So it's been a great collaborative matter. Along with that collaboration, Rocky Knoll is supplying us with cleaners. They come and clean our facility. They take care of the administration and the training room, that type of stuff. So it's really been a great, I think it's going to be a great collaborative effort that's going to pay a ton of dividends as well.
Yeah, no, good work. Nice teamwork all around. Tremendous accomplishment and a tremendous resource for the community for decades to come. So you set the stage a little bit, and I think most people are probably well aware of this new facility. As you said, we had a tremendous open house back in June, and it's helping make good things happen. But it supports an outstanding workforce. What is your total transportation department budget, and how many employees do you have?
We're budgeted at about $18 million, a little bit better than $18 million. That includes the transportation budget as well. So I operate from two different budgets, and we'll get into that a little bit later. We do have 95 employees currently. In our proposed 2019 budget, we're going to be asking for one more individual to help us take care of this new $23 million facility in order to maintain that, to make sure that we know that it's going to last for decades to come. That person will also serve as a backup to our stockroom, which supports 14,000 parts and about $500,000 worth of inventory. So we want to make sure that we have the right people trained in the right place when they're doing that.
You brought the overall project in under budget, on time. Kickoff, as you said, last June. We've now been operating the facility for a few months. Any outstanding issues, anything left to be done? And then I'll turn it over to Tom.
We have some landscaping to do. As you'll see, there's some areas of grass that need to be planted. One, we don't have a lot of time to do it ourselves, and two, a lot of the contractors are busy as well. And planting in the middle of the summer is probably not the best, so we're going to do that this fall. That'll be taken care of. We're going to be planting some arborvitaes along the west side of our property in order to provide a little protection, if you will, for our neighbors. We want to be a good neighbor in the middle of the night or 3 o'clock in the morning when the trucks are out there beeping around, loading up with salt. We want to make sure that they're comfortable where they are. We've had a couple conversations about that. So there's a few things that have to happen yet. Pretty much everything's minor, though, and in very good working condition. So.
Thanks, Greg.
Greg, glad to have you here.
Thanks.
Speaking of accomplishments, I know there's a lot of work getting done in the county. Could you tell us a little bit about what the county is doing, and the state for that matter, relative to roads?
Sure, we'll start with the state. I've gotten a fair amount of phone calls about the State Highway 23 paving project west of Plymouth. Some people didn't like the delays. Some were saying that they sat in traffic for an hour. That was tested, and it wasn't quite an hour, but I'm sure it felt that way when you're in a line of 20. So that was going on this summer. That's just a Band-Aid in order to get us to the next step when Highway 23 gets built, and that remains to be seen yet. State Highway 28 was advanced. It was supposed to first happen last year, and that's where some of the confusion. We got a few phone calls on this as well. As many people are aware, we're working on County Trunk Highway PEP going into Kohler, and just like that, the state decided that they wanted to do the paving on 28. So there was a lot of activity happening in one area. So some people provided us with some feedback, but that project was advanced as well because they had a couple extra dollars to spend on that. The state also has I-43 going, where they're putting a cable down the center to protect cars from going across the lanes and smashing head-on into the oncoming vehicles. So they have a lot of work going on here, and the county, from our standpoint, we have a ton of work going on as well. We're going to hit our 30 miles of paving, which was promised during the proposal for the sales tax. We're rebuilding close to 2 miles, this, as I mentioned earlier, of County Trunk PP going into Kohler, where we've taken out the 4 lanes, reduced it down to 2 lanes, installed 2 roundabouts. So it's a tremendously big project that cost about $3.5 million by the time it's done. We also have the County Trunk FF Bridge that's going to start reconstruction September 10th. That'll be done by the end of October. We perform 15 miles of seal coating this summer, amongst all the rest of our maintenance that we do. And then we oversee the state, or the county bridges, or the town bridges, for construction as well. So we have currently 3 of those that are in progress that we attend meetings to weekly and just provide feedback, because we are the sponsor for the township, or we're the liaison for the township in the state.
Tom, if I can just
Sure,
quick
go ahead.
interject this. as Greg said, he got a lot of questions on Highway 23.
Right.
And sometimes I don't think the public appreciates who's doing what work. I mean, at the end of the day, they just want their roads fixed and they want them safe. But who is doing the work on the state highways? Who's doing the work? Obviously, we're on the county roads. And then the towns can generally be us or can be the private sector.
Sure.
But how do folks recognize who they should call if they have a concern or question? You're the go-to, but who, for example, in 23 was doing the work?
That was a contractor that the state contracted. They let that project. I believe it was Northeast Asphalt that had done it. So the state tries to put out an informational memo, if you will, to provide that contact. Typically, it'll go through them, but anything that's related to highways, when people are looking for somebody to talk to, they're going to look to the county highway department, which will help anybody, guide them in the right direction. Sometimes it is us, you know, and because there is different facets on the state highway, we do all their maintenance work. We take care of the plowing of their snow, the cutting of their grass, the straightening of the signs, that type of thing. We also do some minor improvements, not improvements, but maintenance projects when there comes to some paving, maybe some short stretches of patches that need to be done. So there could be some confusion. Typically, we're engaged with the orange trucks. That will set us apart from the others.
We may be engaged, but it may not be our road, right?
Correct.
I mean, sometimes I know I get people ask me questions. We might be doing work, for example, out in on a town road. The town decided to do that, and they simply contracted with us to do the work.
That's correct. Yeah. Yep. So we act as, I hate to say it this way, but big brother. I mean, obviously, us and the towns have the same needs, wants, if you will. They have roads to maintain, shoulders to maintain. They rely on our services quite a bit. Out of the 15 townships, we take care of 11 of them. So that's around 465 miles of road that we are also responsible over and above our 450. So from time to time, they'll call us, ask for advice, and then they'll say, just take care of the work as well. They have the opportunity to go to the outside, but if it's something that we can perform, typically they'd rather come with us because we do provide cheaper materials, and they know that with the county, they want to support the people that plow their snow and take care of their maintenance as well.
Right. And you kind of answered it, but a little bit with speaking of the towns, I know we do a lot of work for them. You want to talk a little bit about, and you kind of did a little bit, how that process exactly works, how we do the work for them? Sure.
I'll start with the bridges first because a lot of those are federally funded. So when we do their bridge inspections and we come up with some issues and the bridge falls below a certain sufficiency rating, and that's a balance of different numbers and it's dumped into a formula, once that formula drops below 50, then we can apply for federal and state funding for that with the township. I typically take the lead for the township in order to make the application. So, because if we're responsible for the maintenance of that or taking over for it, we'll help them through that process because it is kind of onerous. So we help them go through the bridge petition for the bridge aid. The county helps with that as well. And we just continue to move forward. It takes about 3 to 4 years to get that process done through construction. For their other road work, they will call us, and with our contracts that we have with the 11, we know that we're going to be cutting their grass, plowing their snow, doing all those things. But when it comes to their road paving, we'll provide suggestions. They may have a ordinance that says they have to go out to bid. They'll bid the project. We also supply a quote. Ours is not a bid because we don't bid hard numbers. Ours is actual cost at the end of the day, but we will provide them with what we think that the cost of that project will be. And they may award it to us and they may award it to a private contractor as well. But that's kind of how it goes through the process.
Right. And I personally know there's a good relationship with the towns. I spoke to the Towns Association last winter, and they've said only positive things about the cooperation they get from your department.
We're fortunate to have the progressive townships that we do. We do have an excellent relationship, and that this doesn't come with me. It comes with my staff that live in these townships. They're talking to the town boards. They're talking to the chairman, and my predecessor as well had a good relationship, and I wanted to continue that to go. That to me is part of our lifeline to survive in order to make sure that we're utilizing our equipment to its fullest, because when the wheels are turning, obviously that's good for the equipment to keep on rolling. Even though you have to replace it, it's still, you want to make sure you're getting the most out of your investment.
Yeah, and frankly, as a representative of the taxpayers, that's exactly what they're looking for, because that makes things more efficient from both the town's point of view and from the county standpoint. And that's what people want, without a doubt. You want to talk about a little bit about the 0.5% sales tax and how it's affected your department?
Sure. It's affected us a lot, and it has applied a little bit more pressure. It wasn't too long back, you wouldn't have to look back in our logs too much, that we were paving maybe 8 to 12 to 15 miles per year. And some of that had to do with oil prices, some of it had to do with timing or other construction projects. With the addition of the half-cent sales tax and the program, the paving program that you as the county board leaders wanted to get out there, and we wanted to maintain our 450 miles of road, we have to pave 30 miles a year in order to keep up with that. And that is our goal, and that's what we'll continue to strive for. Now, as we go through this, we're going to make better improvements to make some longevity. So if we can, when we pulverize a road, we know that it's going to last longer than 15 years. We might get 20, 22, 25 years out of that pulverized road versus the 15 of an overlay. So we may run into a time when we can't overlay as many miles because we have to do the pulverize. Those are more expensive projects. You know, it goes from 125 to 250 when you're going to pulverize, but again, you're going to gain some time on the longevity. So there's, it has added a lot of, well, sometimes angst to the operation to get it all done, but we're making the best of it, and we will hit our 30 miles again for 2018.
Good. And you want to tell the difference between road maintenance and improvements?
Sure. A maintenance project would be, you know, similar to an overlay where you, and I'd like to quantify that. Years ago, we spent more time doing like an 1.5 inch overlay of asphalt. An 1.5 inches, we all know that isn't very much, and it's going to show its wear a lot sooner. So we increased that to like 2.5 inches, and we leveled up the road first and then put the 2 inches over the top. It just makes a better job. It adds to our tonnage, but we're getting more longevity out of that as well. And it's not showing its wear, it's not showing the cracking as fast. When we go to an improvement project, we're going to pulverize up that road or rebuild completely. So we're going to recreate new ditches, put in new drainage sections, and then put 5 inches of new asphalt on, depending upon the load that that road is going to be put under. If there's large ag traffic, semi-traffic, that type of stuff, that will increase the thickness of our roads. So once we get to that point and make those decisions, that becomes more of an improvement, because we're improving that structure, we're improving everything from ground up. So the maintenance is more of a seal coat, protect your surface that's already there and get some longevity of it. That's the difference that we look at, the size project and how much asphalt's going down.
And sometimes I know sometimes the road was built and this was the type of traffic it had on, and then all of a sudden the traffic changes dramatically because maybe some factory or something developed down the road or something else that really changed the type of traffic that's on that particular piece of road.
Yep, and that takes away from its longevity a little bit. You know, if that development happens and it happens early on in that pavement's career, it's going to show its wear a lot earlier, wear out faster. So then we have to make different decisions. You know, we base most of our road work on a Pacer system that we use. So we have to go out and rate our roads annually to see what they are. We rate them from a 0 to a 10, 10 being the best, 0 being obviously not so good. So that's how we manage our schedule, manage our road pavements, trying to take out some of those ones that are so bad, but you can't forget about the middle ones that you could get by with a lesser improvement. So sometimes somebody will say, well, why are you working on that road? My road's worse. Well, we're trying to protect it a little bit in the interim so it doesn't turn out to be the bottom. So people will provide different opinions on how their road looks versus somebody else's in front of their home. So.
Yeah, and they don't last forever, as we know.
That's correct.
Even when you're talking about 15, 22 years, all of a sudden that 15 years is there.
Yep.
You thought, well, they just did that road. Well, no, it was 17, 18 years ago that they were working on that road. I know that's the case.
It's really no different than your home. If you don't take care of your roof, you're not going to protect the contents underneath it. And that's the way we've always looked at it. Look at it from a top-down approach. If we take care of the pavements, do the crack filling, do the maintenance, pull up the shoulders so the water can get away. Water is one of our worst enemies. If we're not stopping that from getting into the road base, we're going to see earlier failure than what we should.
Yeah, and we have a lot of industry in Sheboygan County, and I know they're very supportive of the 0.5% sales tax because they're using those roads. I mean, they're big semis that are going out all the time from all the different rather large factories that we have, and they depend on that to get their product to their...
There's a lot of statistics that are centered around the more investment you put into the road, the more you're going to get back out of them, and you're going to have people looking at you to develop in this area because you are proactive in order to keep up with your infrastructure.
And I think we see that. Thanks, Greg. Adam?
I can remember, Tom, one of the more effective pieces of information we shared during the discussion was, Greg, what you shared with the finance director myself, that in order to do just 1 mile of overlay, it was about $125,000. If you let that deteriorate to such a point where you need to pulverize it and then pave it, it's $250,000. If you further let that deteriorate and you have to rebuild that entire same 1 mile of road, it's $1.2 million. So if we stay on top of it as we are now, thanks to the sales tax revenue, doing a minimum of 30 miles a year, we're going to be spending a lot more, closer to $125,000 per mile versus $1.2 million per mile. It's simple math, and fortunately, our community really got behind it. And it's why one of the reasons why the county board continues to push the state into making sure that we're fixing our state highways, because if we continue to let these deteriorate as taxpayers, we are going to be spending so much more to bring our infrastructure back up to where it should be. So good work, Greg, and thank you, county board, for being proactive and supporting a significant investment. It was a huge boon to our transportation department.
Yep, and along with that, and I may have failed to mention it, we are sharing a part of that with the townships.
Right.
And that also does come back to our department to do more paving for them and do their bridge work. I've never seen as much bridge work happening in any other county as what's going on in our townships right now. So that sharing of that is going to extend their road life as well.
And I certainly hear from the village presidents, the town board chairs, and the mayors, and they are very appreciative of that because it does help them deal with their road situation.
Yep.
Well, the transition here, we've had a wonderful summer and there's still a lot of work being done, but it won't be long. And your guys are going to be transitioning from summer construction to winter operations. Please give our viewers a flavor for, well, what's all involved? How does that transition happen?
Well, it already started. It started about the end of July. We started taking our first orders of salt to be prepared for this winter. So we're taking all of our state salt. And some of the state side, we operate out of two separate sides of a salt shed. The state has one side and the county has the other. And some of the state was getting down pretty low last year that we thought we may have had to borrow some from the county in order to make it through. So we're getting all those filled now. So that by the time the winter does hit us, we have all the resources we need from the material standpoint.
How are salt prices looking right now?
It's up. It's about $75 a ton. We're used to in that 65 to 70 range. It fluctuates from year to year depending upon the season. If we were up in Vilas County, it would be $95 a ton. So it's all over the board. So when we transition now, it's always a critical time of the year for us because the same trucks that are hauling the asphalt and the gravel have to be transformed into a snowplow with a underbody blade, that type of thing. So with the amount of construction that we have left this year, we're going to be right up to the wire for snow. So we're hoping it doesn't snow until about March 2nd.
I could live with that.
So it's the transition, it only takes us a few days to make the transition, but what's critical, and one of the things that we've changed over the course of the last 2 years is that throughout the summer months, we'll take a truck off the road for a couple of days and we have our mechanics, what's called a DOT, go through it, check for all the lines that have just a little bit of maybe some moisture on them that the oil's starting to seep out through, and we start changing all that stuff because it always fails at the time when you're out using it and you have to change that hydraulic hose out in the middle of a snowstorm or you have electrical issues. So we're spending more time on what we call a preventive maintenance. And then when we get to the season, it's a little easier just to slide the salt boxes in and get everything hooked up, and they're good to go. Otherwise, it's hard to make the transfer.
And of course, during the winter, our people rely on the roads to get to work.
Yep.
And that's important and get other places. And our companies rely on the transportation system to get their product out once again.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, that's a real negative for them. So they depend on you to do that, without a doubt.
And they let us know that too.
I always find it remarkable, sometimes people's patience or lack thereof will have a heavy snowstorm. When I say heavy, 6 to 8 inches or more. And within 24 hours, the roads are, I think, more if not in beautiful shape. Some of the secondary roads might not have been hit yet or completely cleaned up, but all the main artery are cleared up within 24 hours. Give folks a flavor for just how many trucks are out on any given snowfall. What kind of fleet do you send out?
If we were going to do a 2 or 3 inch snowfall, it's 45 trucks that are going to go. So that's taking care of the state, the county, and the towns. A lot of our county trucks will have dual roles that once they're done with their county route, they'll go into the townships and help out and take care of some of those roads as well. Our main focus is the state first. Sometimes they get called out just a tad bit earlier because if you're traveling any distance, The state road's got to be cleared, and if it's not, then why would you have a county road, try to get to the state road and not have it cleared? So it's, we'll typically start at 3 o'clock in the morning, depending upon when the event comes in overnight. We have been focusing on a lot more chemicals, if you will, which such as salt brine, to buy us a little bit more time. We have a tanker truck that we can apply salt brine down prior to the storm, which doesn't let the snow or ice bond to the pavement as fast. So when we do react, it plows off easier. It keeps it in a little bit more of a pliable form. So we do anywhere between 200,000 and 300,000 gallons of salt brine application a year. Typically it was bridge decks. Now we've extended that out and have done more straight stretches of road. So we're preparing to do more of that in the future, and that does also decrease our resource of using rock salt.
How much salt you have to apply.
Right. We used to use about 12,000 tons of salt a year. Now we're down to about 8, and we believe it has a lot to do with some of the blade changes that we've made, as well as using the salt brine.
Salt brine's a lot more cost effective.
Yep. The salt we have in the shed, we have a maker that the state supplied us, so we didn't have to pay for that, and we can produce it for about 25 cents a gallon.
Oh, big difference. So we only have a minute remaining. I think a number of people aren't aware that not only do we have a highway division in our transportation department, but we also have an airport division. We have a shining jewel of an airport here in Sheboygan County that for a lot of people I think is out of sight, out of mind, but does a tremendous amount to support the economy here. So in 30 seconds, tell us one of the main proposals or new initiatives that's being considered right now at the airport.
Well, in our 5-year capital plan, we do have a customs facility that's being supported now by our governor, as well as our finance committee, and hopefully by the county board. That would be occurring or start to build in 2019 is our hope. We've met with the customs personnel to keep this thing on track, so it is being supported. Along with that, we are also proposing a welcome center, and we hope to engage in a conversation with the people from the Aviation Heritage Center to make a collaborative effort to make that our main focus. If you looked at our airport from the sky, everything comes to that, the Aviation Heritage Center. We've invested in a large apron out in front with 9 inches of concrete that can support some of the largest jets that will land at our airport. And I think it's the best way to use our facility, and we can definitely improve our face because we believe that there's going to be a lot of influence from all over the globe coming into our county of Sheboygan and wanting to do business here and want to golf here and fish here and go to the races here.
Past studies have shown for every dollar that we invest in the airport, about 26 come back to the community. And of course, organizations like Kohler Company, Bemis, Johnsonville, Sargento, Sartori, all of these benefit from that activity, particularly the Kohler Company in Johnsonville, because they're doing a lot of international business and utilizing that airport directly.
Right.
So big initiative at the airport. We're focusing on the roads, but we're also focusing on the airport. And please stay tuned because I'm hopeful by year end, early next year, we'll be able to have a better handle on the key airport stakeholders and their support for a customs facility as well as a welcome center. Greg, thank you for your strong leadership. You continue to help make good things happen in Sheboygan County, and we appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity to do so.
Good to have you here today, and good to have you with us. Next month, we're going to have another very important department head with us, Tom Egebrecht. Unlike Greg, however, he's not going to be here a few months later. Tom Egebrecht is going to be retiring in October. He's been the head of our Health and Human Services Department for, I think, 7 or 8 years now, and really has been a strong leader, an effective leader, helped make a number of good things happen as well. So we look forward to joining us next month, saying hello to Tom Egebrecht and wishing him the best in the next chapter. Until then, thank you for joining us.